हेलो।
यस सर।
ठीक है,
Yes.
फोन डिस्कनेक्ट कर देता हूँ।
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Sir, we'll begin.
Yeah, can begin. If all the speakers have come, you can begin.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Manoj. Morning. Good I met you physically before this meeting, or else it would have looked so bad. Meeting only on online. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning and a warm welcome to Sri Praveen Kumarji, DG and CEO IICA, Sri Manoj Pandeyji, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs and CEO IEPFA, Srimati Nandita Misra, Economic Advisor, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Professor Seema Sharma, Professor and Head of Department of Management Studies, IIT Delhi, and Srimati Monica Helen, who is Adjunct Professor, NISM and IICA, and all the viewers who are participating in this webinar. As part of the celebration of the World Day of Social Justice, as well as celebration of Bharat Ki Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we are hosting this webinar at IICA on the topic of importance of financial education in promoting gender equality and women economic empowerment. This topic has been chosen for deliberation today because of two significant reasons. First, it is important to recognize the role of women in ensuring social justice in our society, as today, on 20th February, world is celebrating the UN-designated World Day of Social Justice. As we are aware, Sustainable Development Goals of the 2030 were adopted by world leaders in September 2000 at the historic UN Summit. Goal 16 of the Sustainable Development Goal, which deals with social justice, is dedicated to the promotion of peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. This is the overarching theme. Globally, gender equality and women economic empowerment are gaining significance in promoting social justice and socio-economic development. Goal 5 of the SDG deals with gender equality. The official wording of SDG 5 is achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. In this regard, as you would be aware, gender equality describes a world in which women and girls have equal access to resources and opportunities, and where their participation, contribution, and decisions are valued and rewarded as much as those of men. The microfinance industry has shown world over that women can be good business clients. As per the latest data, currently around 90% of the SHG clients in India are women. More and more women are getting economically empowered, and as women are central to the welfare of family in Indian society, it is important to promote the gender equality and women economic empowerment. The second significant reason why this theme has been chosen is because of growing recognition of the role that financial education, particularly investor awareness, can play in promoting financial well-being of individuals. Research shows that financial education complements the financial inclusion, especially in developing societies. Financial Inclusion Program of India, especially the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, is already the global case study of demonstrating how the inclusive program services need to be structured and implemented on the ground. As part of a report by IFC, it is learned that majority of women-owned SMEs in India rely on informal financing. It is important that as investor and as owner of SMEs, these women remain financially educated to the full extent so that their need of investor protection is taken care of and they are able to maximize the financial return on the business. IEPFA at Ministry of Corporate Affairs, financial sector regulators in India, and ministries and department of governments of India, and agencies like NCFE, NABARD, SIDBI, etc., are already working in the area of financial education and financial inclusion. Given the global importance attached to gender equality and women economic empowerment, maybe it is high time that all the stakeholders come together to create focused approach on promoting gender equality and women economic empowerment through financial education. We will learn more in the webinar today on what is being done currently and what needs to be additionally done to promote gender equality and women economic empowerment through financial education. Now, coming back to this program, the structure that we would be following is, first, there would be opening remarks by DG and CEO of IICA, Sri Praveen Kumarji. Then there would be keynote address by Sri Manoj Pandeyji. Then there would be presentation by the experts on the subject. Subsequently, we would be taking a follow-up questions, including those raised by participants with the experts on the panel. Finally, we would have a vote of thanks. Let me begin with brief introduction of Sri Praveen Kumarji before I invite him for delivering his opening remarks. He is a 1987 batch retired IAS officer of Tamil Nadu cadre and has held various responsibilities in Government of Tamil Nadu and Government of India in multiple departments such as finance, industries, education, corporate affairs, UN renewable energy, elections, etc. He retired from Government of India as Secretary, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship before taking up the current role of DG and CEO of IICA. With that brief introduction, I would invite Sri Praveen Kumarji to offer the opening remarks. Sri Praveen Kumarji, please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kamakeji. Thank you. Good morning to all participants on this web symposium or web webinar, as we call it now, especially Mr. Manoj Pandey, the Joint Secretary, who could take out time, especially on a Sunday, to deliver the keynote address. The Economic Advisor of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Ms. Nandita Mishra, then Professor IIT Delhi, Seema Sharma, and again founder Dhanchak Financial Education, Shrimati Monica Halan. So what we see here is a eclectic mix of government, academia, and the civil society discuss on this very important topic of financial education in promoting gender equality and women empowerment. This webinar we are conducting as part of our Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and also it happens to be the World Social Justice Day, good synergy of two values under both Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and also the World Social Justice Day. So we came forward to have this symposium on this occasion as such. And I hope at the end of the seminar, whatever we learn, whatever the lessons, we would like to incorporate them in our IICA initiatives relating to gender equality, investor promotion amongst women, gender orientation and CSR, and other activities, so that we want to further our gender focus in our initiatives which we take under IICA, under various schools, under various streams. One good thing after 70 years of independence and the world also becoming one world is that gender equality is not being questioned as an objective, and everyone accepts gender equality as an important objective to be attained. Is part of the SDG also, as part of MDG also earlier. So it is there. But however, how we go about it, how much effort we are putting into it, what are the strategies, pathways for that, that may vary from one country to another, one state to another, one institution to another. Gender equality as such is a very big subject, and many manifestations in this is there. Right from the birth statistics, you get reflected the gender equality, the child birth ratio, then the longevity ratio of the children, and then again the health characteristics like stunting and all that. In all that, gender equality comes in, where we see the girls are less privileged compared to the boys in growing up. Then education, of course, we have this the net enrollment ratio very different between boys and girls. Health, work environment, everywhere the gender is an issue, and we need a multi-pronged approach to address this basic challenge to achieve gender equality. Government has been trying, has taken various initiatives on this issue, like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Mahila Shakti Kendi, the self-help group movement. Even the Ujjwala scheme is basically a gender initiative where you replace the smoky chulhas with the gas. Skill development for women, upskilling women, and so that they become participants in the economy. So all the various initiatives have been taken. Rather, if you see any activity, we can see from the gender perspective that how it is addressing the gender equality issue to three levels, whether it is gender insensitive, second, whether it is gender neutral, and third, whether it is consciously trying to address the gender disadvantage which the women face. So three ways each, any interventions can be looked into. In this symposium, we are trying to limit our discussions. It's a very vast subject, and you can talk, 3-day seminar on this. We'll limit our discussion to the subject of financial education and perhaps financial inclusion as part of the financial education part. Now, if you ask me, what is the most important component in if women to move on the path of empowerment, I will say financial education lies at one of the top hierarchy of interventions required for empowerment of women. Because finance is a lubricant on which the markets run. And it's markets which determine the terms of exchange between various factors of business. Whether agriculture gets how much, the industry gets how much, the labor gets how much. So market determines the exchange ratio between various factors of production. And this market is lubricated by finance. So anyone who is financially illiterate would not be able to efficiently utilize the opportunities available with them. May not even recognize the opportunities. I take my case. I'm totally illiterate about the share market. So while my friends keep on discussing in WhatsApp groups or in one-to-one groups, oh, this is how this opportunity is going up, this sector is rising, we should invest in it. I said dumb, just listening to them, not knowing what are the opportunities, putting my money in FD because that's my limit of financial education. This is one sector of it, and I am supposed to be highly educated. MTech, BTech, and all that, PG diploma, all those things, and 30 years in experience, but still not aware. So now think about the barely educated women, women who have been educated only to the school level. So their education might have been totally bereft of financial matters, but how to access the financial, forget about financial markets, how to use finance to access the regular markets, how to negotiate for the best terms of trade in what they do regularly. That itself will be missing. So financial education will enable them to take informed financial decisions, and which will make them eventually lead to a better quality of life for themselves and their families. And that will empower them to become a mainstream of the financial system, and also strive towards financial inclusion. I don't have the data of the efforts on financial inclusion which have been made, the gender perspective of the data among the new accounts opened, how many are men, how many are women, kind of thing. That data I don't have, but that itself should be a target to have all women should have an account. Financial inclusion should be an objective, and that can be achieved through financial education. And eventually, all this will lead to reducing of gender gaps in the economic empowerment of women. I expect the discussions today may throw light on how we can further this financial education, financial inclusion, and how IICA can play a role in it. And that's my takeaway from the entire discussion, that how I can incorporate the lessons into my interventions in the next 1 year, next 3 years, next 5 years. So with that, I'll close it because I'm not as I said, an expert on the topic. The experts are here, they will talk on it. And with this, I wish everyone all the best for the seminar, and I hope it's a fruitful seminar for all those who are participating and passively and those who are participating actively. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your opening remarks. It nicely lays down the background of the webinar. It is time to have the keynote address now. Before I invite Sri Manoj Pandey for the keynote address, let me provide a brief introduction about him. Sri Manoj Pandey is the Joint Secretary with Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India, and concurrently holds the post of CEO of Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority. He is an Indian Revenue Service officer of 1992 batch and has worked on important roles in the Ministry of Finance earlier. He has been successfully leading the program and activities of IEPFA, especially its awareness program, which have been spreading the message of investor education and protection on the ground. With that brief introduction, may I please invite Sri Manoj Pandey to share his views on the subject. Sri Manoj Pandey, please.
Shri Praveen Kumar, DG and CEO, Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, Shri Kamakhya Narayan Singh, IPFA Research Chair at IICA, Ms. Nandita Mishra, Economic Advisor, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, discussion panelists, Professor Seema Sharma, Professor and Head, Department of Management, IIT Delhi, Srimati Monica Halan, Adjunct Professor in ISM and IICA, and also founder Dhan Chakra Financial Education, participants of this webinar. A very good morning. On the occasion of World Day of Social Justice, I welcome all dignitaries participating in this webinar. It's good that IPFA Research here at IICA has organized this topical discussion because it's of immense importance for IEPFA, the activities which we are performing towards investor education and awareness. We all know that the principles of gender equality, as DG CEO IICA also mentioned, it's a topic of great importance, and it forms part of Indian Constitution. It's there in preamble, fundamental rights, fundamental duties, directive principles. The Constitution itself grants equality to women, but also empowers the state to adopt various measures of positive discrimination in favor of women. India has also been participant of various international conventions towards commitments to secure equal rights for women. And going back to 1993, ratification of the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which we know as CEDAW. It goes without saying that both women and men need to be sufficiently and effectively financially literate to participate in economic activities and to take appropriate financial decisions for themselves. However, this is also a known fact that women often have less access to financial knowledge and lower access to formal financial products than men. Therefore, it is required that they are sufficiently made financially literate so that they effectively participate in economic activities. It has been noted by all analysts and political makers that since women are likely to be closer to the children and many a times or take primary responsibility for child rearing, for educating the children during their early days of schooling, they would have a major role in inculcating the good habits of savings, investments, and also skills to the children. Therefore, it is all the more important that they need to have adequate financial skills, not only for themselves, but also to prepare the future generation for a good financial decision. I've come across a study by International Network on Financial Education of OECD, which reveals that worldwide participation of women in financial matters and consequently their understanding is lower compared to men. It's only in comparison, and it's not only in context of developing countries, but also in some of the developed countries. For example, it was found in the study that in UK, only 49% of women are aware of concept of compound interest against 75% of the men. At the same time, in countries like Poland, about 60% of women do not know that high investments are accompanied by high risks against 45% of men. OECD INFE has developed guidance for policymakers and other stakeholders in the development and implementation of financial education initiatives for women based on the analysis of their national experiences and other evidences. Some of the recommendations I would list down here: identify and take into account general disparities in opportunities and outcomes when designing financial education strategies for overall population of the country. Address women's financial education through existing policies aimed at improving gender equality. Identify the needs of women and girls with respect to their financial knowledge and financial strategies, confidence with a particular focus on their ability to make ends meet, save, choose and use financial products, and seek information and advice. Identify and address key priorities and target subgroups among women and girls depending on the circumstances of a country. Now, most important of the two are promote the involvement and coordination among the relevant stakeholders, including public, private, and civil bodies with an interest in gender issues and financial literacy. and identify and address barriers that may prevent women from accessing financial education and from improving their financial literacy. In public domain, we come across a large research materials which on the subject. All India Debt and Investment Survey, which is administered by National Statistics Office, provides some measures of financial inclusion in India. Survey of 2019 would show gender disaggregated data, which may be a useful measure of how women own and use various financial instruments. The survey would reveal that around 81% of the women in rural areas and slightly higher number in urban areas had deposit accounts in banks. This was found to be an improvement over the earlier 77% of the population. The male-female gap in bank account ownership now has reduced over the past few years, thanks due to Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana accounts. It is now being acknowledged that our country has succeeded in reducing the gender gap in financial inclusion by around 14 to 15% points during 2014-17. And this also has been widely acknowledged. In a research article in public domain by Savita Rani and Neha Goyal would reveal that NCFE conducted financial literacy and inclusion survey in India in 13-14 and 18-19 to assess the status of financial literacy and inclusion and to establish the extent to which the program should be developed to improve literacy status in the country. And it was found in both surveys that women are less literate as compared to men. The survey of 2018-19 has been summarized in the report that 27% females do not maintain a budget for household expenses. Now, 64% females are not able to meet living costs without borrowing. And 94% females have not gathered any information to evaluate the financial products. And here, only 5% females understand the concept of compound interest. And 43% women would only show favorable financial behavior. So there is a gap between awareness of and holding operating of the financial products. But there has been a perceptible improvement also which has been captured, that the positive attitude, the percentage of women's positive financial attitude has now grown up. It's around 90%. So awareness and financial knowledge due to various schemes of the government has gone up in last 5 years. And overall financial literacy has also increased to around 21%. This outcome could be due to various interventions by various groups, civil societies, including interventions by the government in last 5-6 years. As DG CEO IICA had also talked about, like schemes like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, and various other financial inclusion schemes, empowering not only semi-urban, urban women, but also rural women. For example, Department of Financial Services is running various schemes like Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana, Atal Pension Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Mudra Yojana, Stand Up India for financial inclusion and entrepreneurship, development of people across the country, including that of women. Now, the share of the women would also show it has gone up. For example, one example I would like to quote, and that is of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana in 2021. It was found that around more than 50% of the accounts belong to women. That's a very good development in the field of financial inclusion. Benefits are also extended to women under Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program. This will also show that the details of generation of self-employment opportunities through establishment of micro enterprises in the non-farm sector by helping the artisans, unemployed youth. There is a growing trend, and it is seen that in 2021 it has gone up to 37% of the women participation in number of micro enterprises. Similar trend has been seen in National Rural Livelihood Mission, Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gramin Kaushal Yojana, and skill development through rural self-employment and training institutes, which we know as RCTs, which enable a trainee to take bank credit and start her own micro enterprises. It will show that it's quite a healthy trend where participation of women would be growing over the years. Total number of women trained have also gone up. So all these measures taken by government is towards financial empowerment of women. Not only this, but also towards Rashtriya Mahila Kosh loan schemes. I think women have been benefited. Let me quote from RBI's National Strategy for Financial Inclusion, which states, there has been growing evidence on how financial inclusion has a multiplier effect in boosting overall economic output, reducing poverty and economic inequality at the national level. Financial inclusion of women is particularly important for gender equality and women's economic empowerment. Now, what IPFA is doing? IPFA, as we all are aware, has twin objectives. One, refunding back the shares and the dividends and amounts which have been transferred to IPFA, and second, investor education and awareness. So far, we have approved close to 24,000 claims in last 3 years, transferring about 1.45 crore shares and dividends. Combined value of both at the market value would come to more than rupees 1100 crore. On investor awareness programs, IPFA has conducted series of investor awareness programs in rural and urban areas for spreading awareness related messages among general public with special emphasis on women. With financial and social inclusion, particularly of the poor and underprivileged being a key national agenda, IPFA has undertaken a number of initiatives. It has collaborated with various organizations for propagation of financial literacy. As on date, more than 62,000 IAPs have been conducted in rural and urban areas, covering more than 29 lakh citizens. CSC e-governance is organizing IAPs in rural areas through the common service centers on behalf of the authority. And till date, more than 57,500 IAPs covering more than 26 lakh citizens have been conducted. Now, a project for 15,000 IAPs in 117 aspirational districts intending to cover rural citizens from 117 aspirational districts of 28 states, with a special focus on women, is in progress. Many videos which are getting captured by CACs would show that women are coming up and in not only opening bank accounts, but also would also be going towards products like insurance schemes, realizing the importance of its safety. A memorandum of understanding between IPFA and Nehru Yuva Kendra Sangathan has also been signed, and it will use the outreach and network of youth clubs for conducting IAPs in 50 districts on pilot basis, covering 2,500 villages in 50 districts. IPFA has also collaborated with India Post Payment Bank for holding investor awareness and financial literacy. It will be covered through 23 postal circles and 650 branches. So far, 200 camps educating 1.5 lakh citizens has been organized, which also covers a large female population. On January 24, 2022, on the occasion of National Girls Child Day, IPFA organized virtual events and IAPs in association with CSE governance through Facebook Live and webinar with ICI, where discussions were held for ways of women's financial inclusion. More than 1.5 lakh participated during the live event. Awareness messages are being aired on Doordarshan, including regional kendras in multiple languages. Also on Lok Sabha television and discussion programs on All India radio titled Sajak Niveshak, Surakshit Niveshak. A very important initiative was taken in terms of rural investors handbook for rural and semi-urban areas in English, Hindi and vernacular languages in collaboration with CSE governance. A series of 6 short films having participation from women in the films in the rural and semi-urban areas has been launched in association with CSE, where 6 short films and modules of 5 to 6 minutes each, highlighting the importance of budget, savings, importance of insurance schemes, and various social security schemes of the government has been provided in those modules. It also would portray a common man falling prey to the Ponzi schemes and the consequences. Realizing the importance of women in the family, women characters have a key role in all these 6 modules. A society in which women does not become a market participants, and also participate in investments and a conscious investments, and is not included in the financial fold, may lose out on innovation and growth, as we have seen in many success stories in our country. We have, as part of organizations of government, research chair at IICA, the civil societies, and the informed people should try to reach out to as many people in this country, particularly the female population, to spread the message of financial inclusion and importance of coming into the fold of markets, because that only will lead to a country's growth. Economic democracy would necessarily mean a participation of women in equal measure as men. Before concluding, let me request the participants and panelists the following, and I think that should also be part of the discussion. Make the financial world simple. Why I am saying? Because if you have to take the message to semi-urban and rural areas, which is largely would not be aware of the meaning of various products, and there would be a mental block in terms of understanding the meanings of equities, derivatives, and more complex financial products, you will not be successful in bringing the women, particularly in rural and semi-urban areas, into this world. So start informing them in simple language the meaning of various financial instruments and their importance. Start from opening bank accounts, loans, and thereafter the complex instruments. The small films like IPFA has been rolling out, the civil societies, the various groups should also come out in form of very simple messages conveying the meaning of complex instruments. The jargons of equities, derivatives, and other products have to be simplified, have to be broken into pieces. They should not be mystified, making non-urban, uneducated, and not so well-informed women also to understand and ultimately participate in these instruments. It should not be metro-centric, urban-centric. The message has to go to semi-urban, small areas, rural areas. True economic democracy in country can only be assured if true financial inclusion of women also happens. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sri Manoj Pandeyji, for your keynote address and letting us know about what has been achieved by IEPFA till date, especially in the area of investor education, and what are its plans for the future. IEPFA, since its establishment on 7 September 2016, has achieved a lot over a period of just about 6 years. I'm sure that under your guidance and leadership, IEPF will achieve much more in future. At the end of opening remarks and keynote address, we would like to thank once again Sri Praveen Kumarji and Sri Manoj Pandeyji for sparing their valuable time on a Sunday and sharing their views on the subject with participants of this webinar. We would be happy, sir, if both of you stayed throughout this program, but I understand it's a Sunday and your time is valuable. Thank you to